Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Lloyd Skinner, the CEO of Greyfly.ai. We've built an intelligent project prediction platform that uses AI to deliver project intelligence to executives to increase project success. Today, I'm going to have a quick chat with Melissa Drew. I'll let Melissa introduce herself in 1 second, and we're going to talk about her views around AI in project management. Melissa, would you like to, good afternoon to you, and would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. My name's Melissa Drew. I've got 28 years of procurement and supply chain experience. I've been working with data since 1995, working with AI technology since, in 2004. I'm a founding member of the Women Leaders in Data and Artificial Intelligence, and I also have a podcast on the impact of data and AI.
Fantastic. You sound like the perfect person to speak to, and in particular, not just around project management, but maybe the wider world as well. But we're here to talk about AI and project management.
Yep.
So my first question is, from your perspective, what use cases do you see about AI in project management?
So when I look at project management, I spent 10 years writing and teaching project management and principles of project management to procurement, supply chain, and other organizational professionals. And what I've noticed is that when we think about project management and we talk about use cases, if I step back, the components of project management: scope, time, human resource, cost, communications, risk, quality, and then just the organizational knowledge. So if you encompass all of that in a project management tool, then the use cases are endless. And when I was thinking about this as you were asking the question, it's any complex project, any long-term project, global projects, projects with multiple work streams. So for example, I have a project, program manager, and I may have 5 or 6 work streams underneath them, each focusing on a different application or a different process. And then also on projects where I have a variety and different resources. For example, employees of the organization, consultants that I've hired that know an application, consultants that I hire that may have an industry-specific knowledge, a contractor, or even a temp person to come in and backfill a role. All of those are the primary use cases in really where this, where project management and project intelligence is perfect for. It like I said before, it's endless.
So it could be applied to all of these different types of projects, and in your words, endless.
Mm-hmm.
How would you apply it? What's your thinking about how you could use it?
So the whole concept of AI technologies is to automate the tactical, to allow individuals to be more strategic, to allow them to work on more value-added activities. For example, planning, relationship building, issue management, all the things that typically they need to work on, and that's where the priorities tend to lend. Being able to communicate upward and downward, are we on budget? How are we going to solve this? What's our contingency plan? I mean, all of that is considered more strategic value added, activities. But if your project manager or program manager is so focused on the tactical level details of managing a task or managing a line item in a project plan, then they're not doing what they really should be doing or what they could be doing to really bring this program to a better efficiency and with better results.
I love that. So I often use the term augment the human. I think that's exactly what you're probing at there. So what you obviously you've touched on this, but what sort of benefits do you think there would be?
So we see this kind of technology in other applications. Excuse me. We see this in other applications. But when we look at the predictive analytics, the idea is that we've never been able to really look at the prior projects and understand what went wrong and how can we apply them to future projects. And that's just because it was too much data for us to try to synthesize. it was so much data all at the same time, and we just didn't have the time frame or the scope to be able to recognize the patterns and how to create the context from those patterns and then improve on them. So with the AI technologies and the predictive analytics that you mentioned, we're able to assess project data with better informed data fact-driven decisions. We're able to truly understand if the project's behind, on target, or ahead, and then also be able to focus our priorities on where we need to adjust. And then,
Brilliant.
Ultimately this will increase productivity and drive efficiencies.
Brilliant. So data-driven decision making,
Mhm.
knowledge of where a project outcome's going to be, and ultimately cost savings, I guess, if it's driving
Yes.
efficiencies. All
Yes.
right.
So the number one, so I work in information technology, specifically in IT projects. And the number one problem we have is we didn't spend enough time understanding if we were behind or ahead. We didn't understand how we could really allocate resources. So if a work stream was ahead, maybe we could take one of those resources and put them on a work stream that was falling behind. We didn't take in context the historical data that we had from other projects and pull that in. So every time we had a project, it was almost like recreating the wheel every single time, which ultimately takes time, costs money.
Yeah.
So for us, in working as a program manager, if I had the ability to be able to know when to shift my resources, where to focus my attention, where it's needed at most, be able to better articulate to a client or to a customer, hey, we're actually falling behind. Here are the reasons why we're falling behind. Let me talk to you about some options we can do to resolve them. Without understanding that, it really comes back to a different conversation. Hey, we're 2 weeks behind. So in order to make this up, we're going to need to get another resource. That's a cost. We're going to need to expand the time frame by 2 more weeks. That's a cost, both external cost as well as the employee internal cost.
Brilliant, brilliant. So ultimately, increasing the likelihood of success of your projects or your programs.
Yeah.
And Mel, would that differ per sector? Different types of projects or different industries?
I don't see that. If I look at financial services where you still have IT projects, but I don't want to say that project management is only focused on IT projects, because everything, going back to the use cases that we outlined before, an IT project doesn't have to be a long-term project. It could be a complete rebranding or redoing the SKUs within a retail company. I mean, there's everything that we do in an organization has some sort of beginning, middle, and end, a plan, a project that we need to follow with end results. So no, I don't see this differing, by sector.
Brilliant, brilliant. So okay, so obviously that sounds fantastic. The vision that you paint, the benefits that you paint there, but there must be some challenges to implementing AI in project management. What sort of challenges do you think that they are?
I like stories. I like the way a story comes across. So I'm going to answer that starting with the story, and then I'll fold into the relevance. Early in my career, so back in 1998, 99, I'm at a client site and I'm in this elevator with an individual. And we're talking about, I'm going over to another facility, and he tells me he's going home for the day. And so I jokingly, oh, I'd love to know what role you have in the company. I think that would be a great job. And he then informs me that he's the CEO of this global multinational brand company. And yes, I was truly embarrassed at the moment because this is at the beginning of my career, but I was bold enough to ask him, which, we then continued to walk out together in the parking lot, help me understand how you're able to do this. And the first thing out of his mouth was good project planning. And this was my early stages of understanding that there is no bad project, only poor project planning. And he said, I use this structured, program, data driven. I have a PMO organization that does nothing but monitor all the projects across the entire globe. I come in every day and I work with them to understand, based on the data, which project is ahead. I don't need to talk to them. Which projects on target? Okay, we'll monitor them. And which projects are behind? And the ones that are behind are the ones that I then focus my attention on. And sometimes it's a couple hours, sometimes it's multiple days, sometimes it's multiple weekends. But then every now and then I have a day like today where everybody's doing well and I'm going to go take a break. And
Wow.
it was the first time that I really understood data when it came to project management, and recognizing that the right data at the right time, but at a time when it's the most impactful, is really relevant and important. And then shortly after that, I went and got my own PMI, my own PMP degree. Yeah.
Well, I don't know who it was, and I'm not asking
I
who it
don't
was,
either. I don't remember it.
but what a fantastic story, Mel. Thank you for that,
Yeah.
and really brings to light the power that AI might bring. But okay, so we you know, that again, that's got the vision, but in terms of you know, making that happen, and a business adopting AI, you know, what's stopping a company, and what should they do about that to move things forward?
So what's stopping the company is the cultural mindset. You know, I call this the front seat leader. The leader that's not sitting back and just letting things slide and getting the paycheck, but a leader that's forward, you know, up front, that's there to help resolve the obstacles, which is what I considered this individual. So I've narrowed it down to about three things. One is skill sets, knowledge. I don't know, because I'm in the US and you're in the UK, but in the 1980s, I was, you know, one of those kids that watched Saturday morning cartoons, and G.I. Joe was a cartoon, and their slogan was, their slogan was, knowing is half the battle, knowledge is power. And I pull that back into skill sets. You know, it's one thing to say I'm going to be a project manager, but if you don't understand the concepts of what good project management is, then you're not going to be able to facilitate and foster a good program. So knowledge and skill sets, and really understanding the concepts and the breadth and the depth of project management. The second is mitigating risks. I put myself in this bucket, you know, early on in my career. I found that individuals at all skill sets and all paths in their career are good at identifying the risks. What they're not good is communicating and articulating it so that someone understands that not only is this a risk, but here's the impact of that risk if we don't make a decision on it now. And I struggled with that early in my career. I was good, and so was my teammates, at knowing where the risk was. And we thought we were communicating it effectively, until a month later, our program manager comes back and says, why are we behind? And we're like jumping up and down, going, but we said, you know, every week we said this was an issue, but we didn't understand how to articulate it correctly. So it's not just understanding how to mitigate it, but it's understanding how to communicate it properly and helping people recognize what the impact of the risk is. That's great. It's a risk. How big of a risk?
Yeah.
What do we do if we don't do anything? And then the third thing is the criteria for success. If we truly don't understand what the criteria for the success of this project is, so what is this project supposed to be doing? When we get to the end of the project, how do we know that this was a successful project? And if you can define those things early on, then anytime you feel that the project is starting to stray, you immediately go back to kind of those guiding principles, those guardrails that you set up. And you can then adjust more quickly, instead of completely going off on a tangent and realizing, oh, well, now we're 4 weeks behind schedule because we started working on something that wasn't directly impacting the success of this project. Brilliant. So to me, those are the kind of the top three things that if we can resolve those, and then of course, you know, this wonderful technology that we have in project intelligence, then I think we'll all have a much better results. Yeah.
So it could enable some of the big problems that we challenge as well. Just to let you know, G.I. Joe, we call it Action Man in the UK.
Really?
But you know, from that, yeah, knowledge is information, information is power, is something that I certainly was taught academically. So, you know, and I definitely chime with your point there, and almost leaping into this understanding zone of what is capable and what the power of new technology can bring. So I totally concur with that. I'm just going to have one last wrap up question, if I may. If there was one takeaway, you know, if you were in the lift with that chap again today, and you wanted to sell AI in project management to him, what would you say to him?
Well, I'd like to answer that by answering another question you asked earlier. When I met him, I thought, oh my gosh, this is the way it should be. And I'm now in 2022, and I've done a lot of projects in my life, in my career, in the last 28 years. I've never known anybody else to do what he's done. So what I thought back in 1998, 99 was the way it should work, I'm now recognizing that he was truly progressive and innovative in what he was doing. And what I find challenging at the moment is, you know, people are so focused on the short-term budget and not recognizing the long-term value. And so even before the project starts, they're already cutting the budget. They're cutting out change management. And number 2 on the list is cutting out project management. People are working in Excel. People are not doing anything at all. So that right there gives me the best foundation to come back and say, you know, if you are using a tool with true project intelligence, with AI and predictive analytics, the way you're using AI and, you know, everywhere else in your organization, then this should not only be something you don't cut ever in your project going forward, but you're able to really utilize it, I think, better and more efficiently. You're able to keep your resources to a minimum, so you don't need a 1.5 resources just to do project management. It's giving them the knowledge they need to go and focus on the things that they need to focus on. I mean, I could probably come up with like 15 more reasons why you need to do this. It's almost at the point where the simplest answer is why not? I mean,
I was going to say, Mel, that chap, if he was around today, it sounds like, you know, he wouldn't have been leaving in the afternoon. He would have been leaving in the morning if he'd applied this technology and these tools.
Yes, because it goes back to what you said. It's augmenting that human intelligence. It's hard to say, but our brains can only go so fast and can only absorb so much information. And I did a speech a month ago. We're creating petabytes of data on a daily basis worldwide. And all of that can come into, you know, different aspects of project planning. If you've got a global project that's related, you know, dependent on weather, that's another variable that can help you better understand your project plan. Without artificial intelligence in that project planning, you know, within that activity, there's no way that we would know these things until it's after the fact or reactive. Whereas with the use of the technology, we're now proactive. And I think that's another big difference in with and without the AI technology.
Brilliant. Well, unfortunately, our time's come to an end because I'd love to keep chatting. I mean, absolutely fantastic insights, Mel. So thank you so much for sparing the time to speak to us. And best of luck. And do dial into, what's the name of your podcast?
Impact of AI and Data.
Oh, there you go. Please listen out to that for that, people. Excellent. Good afternoon, Mel.
Thank you.
Cheers now.